I have lived both in Spain and in the UK. 4 months in the UK 2022 and almost half a year in Spain at the time of recording. In this video I'll walk you through some of the most meaningful aspects of living in both these countries as a foreigner, including 10 criteria: weather and climate, health and well-being, food, social life, work culture, travels, languages, cost of living, holidays and festivals, and challenges you might encounter after moving. I will rate each of these criteria on a scale from 1 to 10, and then we'll have a general score of up to 100 points for each country. I have a lot to tell, so there'll be two parts of this video, one that you see now and the next one will come out next week. Everything that I'll be saying is based on human experiences, it's not the generic info you will find online, so stay tuned if you want to see the most realistic picture of living in the UK and in Spain as a foreigner. First, let's talk about the weather and climate. We will not discuss the basics, like Spain is so nice and sunny and the UK is just grey and rainy. It might be true, but there are also more practical aspects that I want to point out. The weather highly depends on the region of the country and it applies to both countries we'll talk about, so just keep this in mind, but we'll dive into some general specific patterns. Starting with the UK, all 4 seasons are quite mild, so summers are not too hot, but winters are not too cold either, which is nice, coming from someone who has experienced minus 20 degrees outside. And while it was very strange for me to wear a warm jacket on my birthday in July for the first time in my life, I do appreciate mild winters a lot because I don't like being cold at all. There also were some heat waves starting from the year 2022, so I guess the UK is also getting warmer. To address the rainy situation in the country, I'd like to say that rain is bad only in big cities, and the UK is generally nature-filled. So there are only a few big, really big cities there. So you mostly have rural areas, countryside and suburbs of medium cities. In the area where I lived, it was in the middle of the island, in the suburb of a medium city. There were a lot of green areas and nature, and so I generally don't mind the rain, and when it's in the nature it's even better, because you see not the grey, dark, wet city situation. You see everything bright and green and smelling fresh air, so I do not consider the weather and climate as the worst downside of living in the UK. Talking about Spain, it's as nice and sunny as you can imagine. It's really nice outside throughout the whole year. I'm talking about the south of the country. The weather in the north is also nice, but still a little different. So if you're traveling to the north, just keep in mind that it can be a bit different from what I'll be telling here. So it's nice and warm, but there are a few disadvantages that I want to point out. First, summers are dry and hot, like really hot. When I first came to Spain, it was the end of August and it was still over 40 degrees daily even in September. To be fair, I did come to the hottest city in the country. However, it doesn't change the fact that summers are too hot to handle anywhere. And I'm saying it as someone who freezes when it's even plus 20 degrees. Another major downside of the south of Spain is that buildings here don't have central heating or any heating. The only way to keep apartments warm in the winter is AC or portable heaters, but even they don't always save the situation. For example, I don't keep AC or a heater on during the night, and that's why I wake up to 11 degrees inside of the apartment. And that's when it's 15 to 20 degrees outside, the weather is still nice, the sun is shining, but homes normally feel like the North Pole at this time of the year. When it's warmer outside, about 20-25 degrees, the inside temperature will be 16 degrees maximum. And also everything is covered in mold, so you need to be prepared to notice it and remove it on time, because sometimes it appears on very unexpected places. And a very important note here is that both countries have adjusted home buildings according to the weather. Floorings play a crucial part in keeping apartments comfortable to live in, so in the UK, where it's colder, the floorings will be carpets, even in the bathrooms, which sometimes might cause problems, especially when there are some water leaks. And in Spain, you'll see porcelain or ceramic tiles everywhere, which are absolutely freezing in the winter. And that's the main reason why you can't really heat up the apartment, because as soon as you turn off the AC or the heater, which you probably wouldn't keep on all the time, the apartment just freezes instantly from the cold floor. So coming to rate the first aspect, everything I've just listed doesn't cancel the fact that Spain is still nice and warm for most of the planet's population, and the UK weather is a synonym to something sad and depressing. I will rate the UK weather a 7 because it's rainy but still comfortable in my opinion, and Spanish weather will get an 8 because it's nice outside, but I'm deducting 1 point for crazy hot summers and 1 point for freezing apartments in the winter. Second, we'll cover health and well-being. Starting with the UK, the main most important tendency for me is that the system is very slow. You have to wait months to get a doctor appointment. Then it also depends a lot on the type of medicine you can access. I've heard many stories from my acquaintances who have lived in the UK way longer than I did, and they say that local healthcare system was not helpful for them at all. The main recipe to get better in the UK, and this will be one of the first things you'll learn after coming there, is to drink lots of water, take lots of paracetamol, and hope that you'll still be alive when you finally come to see a doctor. I honestly believe there should be ways to have the healthcare system be really helpful for you. Maybe I just didn't find it, and so didn't my friends. But anyway, at least it doesn't cost thousands of dollars every time, like in the US, and people are not terrified of healthcare because of how costly it will be. So I want to say healthcare is not terrible, but it is pretty bad. In Spain, I honestly didn't have the time to figure out and arrange all the documents needed to access healthcare, but I can speak from perspective of people who've been here longer and who actually have done it and know how it works. So generally the system isn't bad. You need to take time and input some effort at the start to understand how it works, but once it's done you should be fine. You can easily access healthcare when you need it. I've heard many stories from people who come here with kids about how grateful they are to the local healthcare system, saying it was really helpful for their kids at some point and it didn't cost much or didn't cost anything at all. Clearly, there still might be some issues because healthcare is messy everywhere, but generally in Spain the system is good. And also, when you come to Spain, it's usually good for your health and well-being because of the weather, the sun, all the good vibes around. So for this point, I will rate the UK a 5 and Spain an 8. By the way, if you don't agree with me on anything, I'd be happy to read your opinion in the comment section. I don't know everything, I'm just expressing my opinions here. So let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me. Next aspect, food. Starting with the UK. UK doesn't really have its national cuisine. The most British dishes you will find are English breakfast, which is nice. Also, a popular dish is fish and chips, which I didn't even try, if I'm honest, because I don't like the idea of this dish, so I'm not evaluating it at all. And another popular option is Yorkshire pudding. It is a side dish and probably the simplest one. Other than that, the food is borrowed from multiple cultures, so you can find anything you like in the UK, but it will not be authentic. It will be just food from other countries. English tea is a stereotype, by the way. They do offer it in most cafes, but typically no one orders it, and Brits drink lots of coffee, especially decaf coffee. It's everywhere. Another important point, British food habits are normally unhealthy, unfortunately. I've lived in an environment where there were many sports people, so I'm not talking about the environment I was in, I'm talking about the country in general. There are so many different snacks in the stores, you can get lost in them. By the way, I remembered one more national dish, a dessert. I've lived in Cheshire County. It is the very Cheshire where Alice in Wonderland is from. They really do have rabbit holes, and the buses are called and designed Cheshire Cats. And also they have a cake in the form of caterpillar, which is a very popular one. It's very chocolatey and very authentic to the region, so you probably wouldn't find it any place apart from Cheshire. Anyways, lots of snacks, lots of prepared dishes sold in the stores. Unhealthy food usually tastes better in the UK than healthy options. the UK is not the best country for healthy eating habits. Spain is the opposite country to the UK in terms of food. It has its national dishes that are tasty and often even healthy. Here you have paella, tortilla, lots of seafood, lots of fruit and vegetables that taste great and are accessible throughout the whole year in pleasant varieties. You have a national dessert called churros and turrón in many forms, lots of wine and sangria, which is very popular and loved by tourists. By the way, sangria is often complimentary. When someone tries to get you to come into the restaurant, when they see you're tourists and you're just walking by, someone will say complimentary sangria to get you into the restaurant. So surely you can get something sweet, salty, or generally unhealthy if you want to, but generally the environment here is very supportive towards healthy food. And by the way, healthy food here tastes 10 times better than unhealthy junk food. The only unhealthy side of eating habits in Spain is that everything is late, including meal times. So 1 p.m. or even 3 p.m. is a very normal time for breakfast, and 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. is normal for dinner, according to the people who make it here. So yes, it's quite late. Based on what I've just said, I will give the British food and cuisine a 5. Not my favorite aspect of the country, sorry. And Spanish food will get a 9, because I do believe it's one of the best countries in terms of food and healthy eating habits, except for the meal times part. Next point is social life and community. It's a tricky part because it can depend a lot on the particular journey someone is on at the moment. So I will not only talk about my personal experience, but generally try to be objective here. So in the UK, social environment is quite stable. That's from my experience. I've lived not in a big city, but most cities in the UK are not too big, so it might be fair to come from this perspective. What I mean by stable is that people normally grow up together, they go to the same schools, they stay friends throughout their whole lives, they can marry the person who's their first love. If you grew up in a similar environment, all of it might seem normal to you, but me, for example, I didn't grow up in the same situation. I've had about 100 different classmates. I've moved multiple times during my uni years. My friend groups changed completely, and only my family and closest friends remain in my life without question. So seeing someone with life this stable was new to me. That's not a subject to judge, it's just a fact. For going out, British people love pubs, cafes. Also, what was a surprise to me is that sometimes there can be not too many cafes in the city, and some of them might be really popular. So you'll see people queuing to get in some places, and you'll have to stay in line to get in sometimes. That's also, I didn't see too much in other countries, or as much as in the UK. Another point about British society is that they're always friendly and easygoing to your face, but they don't always mean it. So this one is a point that I don't like the most. If something's going wrong in communication or generally somewhere, you probably will not know about it because no one will tell you. If you can tell something's off, and if you ask 100 times what's wrong, they might tell you, not always, but they might. Other than that, people are friendly, welcoming, they'll ask many questions, they'll help you adjust if needed. Obviously, in cities there would be more options for going out and a more dynamic environment in general, but it also depends a lot on your daily choices, how you spend your time, who you meet day to day. In Spain, the people are friendly, helpful, and also what I love, they are straightforward. They don't smile all the time, they have all the human emotions. They are honest, emotional, very true in other words. They're very loud and fun. So if you are young, moving to Spain, especially to some of the bigger, more active cities, might become one of the best decisions in your life, and socializing will be one of the parts why it's so good. Also, Spain is really good in choices of restaurants, bars, coffee shops, bakeries. It is partially because it's a really good country for vacationing, but you will feel the benefits of this variety even if you come to live here. One more important point, Spain is a very family-friendly country. People often come here with kids, planning to have kids. Conditions for children are really good here. Spain Spaniards love children, schools are great, they offer many interactive activities, kids socialize easily, so this part is great. So with the rates, it's the hardest point to assess yet because of how subjective it is. I'll give a 7 to the UK because again they're very friendly and welcoming, but they don't always mean it, unfortunately, and it can be really hard to make friends coming to the UK as an adult. For Spain, it's gonna be a 9. The country is great for socializing, but sometimes it's just hard to match tempos with them, so this one deducted point is not a disadvantage of the country in any way, it's just a matter of matching. In the next video I will talk about the work culture, job market, travel accessibility, language and communication. We'll talk holidays and festivals, cost of living, and challenges you'll encounter when moving to the UK or Spain. We'll also come to the total scores, so subscribe not to miss out, and see you in a week.